Right.
Yeah, my story is out there. Me and Jay's story anyway. So yeah, the way I met Sonny, I was already in pursuing Filipino American culture, being around 16, 17. You really trying to figure out who you are, what does it all mean, and why should it make sense? At the time, I was working at a bagel place in Berkeley, right there on Telegraph, next to UC Berkeley, and so there's a lot of foot traffic, a lot of people. I was there with me and Jay. Jay was actually the manager of this bagel place that eventually shut down, and we came to work and suddenly it was closed. But that's another story. So I was taking my break out front, and I was wearing this big Filipino flag of a shirt because I was very Filipino proud and trying to search that. And this homeless looking man came up, and I could tell like, oh, this guy's Filipino, and I could tell he's homeless, and he's carrying his backpack and everything, and he sees my shirt. And he's like, "Oh, you Filipino?" He was like, "Oh, I'm Filipino too." He was like, Eskrima?" He's like, "I teach it at the park. You should come through. I'll teach you for free." I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, that sounds cool." And then he asked me for $1, and I was like, "I have bagels I can give you," and so gave him like a big bag of bagels, and eventually met him out in the park. I asked Jay to come with me and see if he's interested, and he did show up with me, and first lesson was pretty awesome. He showed us some sticks, and then he showed us some like open hand, and did some Moro stuff, which was all cool and new to us, and soaking it all up. Then we were with him for like several months, probably 3 or 4 months, until he took us and he said, I'm going to take you to go see the Grandmaster. And at this time, I'm like, I didn't realize there was a Grandmaster. And so he eventually takes us to Sonny's place. And I remember coming to the apartments, the old apartment on Brush Street. And, so we knock on the door, and same thing. Sonny cracks the door open. You could see the chain still attached, and you just see half of his face like this.
Yep.
And then he's looking around, he's squinty, and he's nodding, looking at Mario. And then they say a few words. It's like, oh, these are the guys that I'm training. They want to learn the Moro. And then he's like, okay. And then he closes the door, undoes the chain, opens it up, and then all the smoke fucking comes out from his cigarette smoking. And sure enough, it was dark. And so you can tell him and Mario have a shorthand, and he goes into the kitchen. And they talk for a bit, and me and Jay are sitting on the couch, and yes, just like Jason said, there's swords everywhere, and there is a tape playing. I remember on the TV with the double stacked VCRs, and then he comes back out and sits on the edge of the couch and is like, "So you guys want to learn Moro?" And from there we ended up talking, and we basically just continued training with Mario from there. It wasn't until a month or so later that Mario became missing in action. We couldn't find him. He started becoming inconsistent, and we eventually went to Sonny because we were looking for Mario, but we also wanted to continue our training, and so we asked Sonny if it would be okay to train with him, and he said yes. And he said just to come on Sundays, which I know was his day off. He told us to come on Sundays and, just show up, just show up and do the work. And that's what we did up until he integrated us with the group as regulars on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then, it was all kind of history from there at that point. But it was a slow process. And he just made us do footwork. I remember like not throwing a punch or holding a weapon for the longest time. And we were just doing footwork stuff. I guess that's because he was under the idea that we wanted to learn the Moro, because that's what Mario brought us in for. But I just remember thinking, man, we haven't thrown a punch or swung a stick in months. But I didn't complain. I was just there and happy and just to be doing something. So that's kind of the short of it. But my intention was definitely like, I want to learn about, martial arts, and, I want to learn more about history. And I remember Sonny saying like, I'll teach you, but if you're trying to learn about the history and all of that and the culture, you have to learn that somewhere else. This is
Interesting.
we're learning about fighting, and this is what we do here. And that's what made it serious, because then I was like, okay, he's no nonsense. Also, once you watch them move, then you're like, this dude's legit.
Yep.
I just remember thinking like, I want to do that.